Hello. Hello, hello, hello. Hello! Oh, chocolate coffee from Nespresso. Delicious. Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to talk a little bit about investing in you and what that means. So, about 15 years ago, I was in my early mid-30s. My wife and I had just moved back to Canada from South Korea. We were out there teaching English. And after we came back, we didn't have great jobs because we had just come home. And so we had decent jobs, but I had carried on some debt from the previous city that we lived in Canada here to where we currently live, which is in Edmonton. And when I did that, I wanted to figure out how to get out of debt. So most of my debt was in student loan stuff and in credit card stuff. And I just wanted to get out from underneath it and be able to carry forward. So I found a book, and the book at the time was written by this guy, Dave Ramsey, The Total Money Makeover. I read this book cover to cover probably 6 times. And every time I read it, it gave me a new concept to work on and how to figure out my finances and get out of my debt and build a emergency fund. It was my first emergency fund I had ever built, so I was pretty excited when I got to the point where I completed all those things and I was ready to start actually investing. The problem is, Dave here talks about how to get out of debt, but he doesn't talk about how to make money. And make money is what I really ultimately wanted, because I ultimately wanted to become some sort of millionaire, and I wanted to be able to stop working in the future, but not just stop working 9 to 5. And I also wanted to be able to retire. So by watching my parents, who have struggled financially for many years, I realized that I myself could be better at managing my money. And Dave started me down that correct path, down the path of getting out of debt, staying out of debt, being out of debt. And then I said, well, I need to relearn what I knew in my early 20s. And I needed to learn again about investing my money. So I found a book. I was at the bookstore. It's called The Millionaire Teacher. It's by Andrew Hallam. This book, I would call it the best book on the planet, because it tells you about how to invest money as a Canadian into the stock market. What it also does is it talks about being either in the US or in Canada. The hard part about being in Canada is a lot of books aren't written from the Canadian perspective that I have found, but a lot of the books are written from a United States perspective, which is great if you live in the US, but not so great if you live in Canada, because we have different rules and different drivers and different assets that we can access here. As you can tell, I've tagged it a bunch of places and I refer to this book a lot. So in this book, it tells you all the things you need to know. It tells you about bonds, it tells you about stocks, it tells you about ETFs. It tells you when the market goes up and the market goes down, and all the different graphs and all the percentages and on and on and on. It tells you a lot of things. One of the great things about Andrew is he also lists in there other books you should read. One of them being this book, The Little Book of Common Sense Investing by John Bogle. John Bogle was one of the guys who started Vanguard, and ETF is a portfolio of stocks that you buy into by buying one stock. And instead of buying the portfolio of every single company in the world, the big difference there is when you buy one stock that has an encompassing 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 companies inside of it, you're still only paying the one price. Whereas if you went and bought 1,000 stocks, you're buying into every single individual company. The hard part with an individual company is it could be very volatile. It could go very good for you, and then the company does really bad and it crashes down to the ground. In the past, I've invested in a handful of stocks that I thought were going to do very well as an individual stock, and I paid low prices, and it went up a little bit and then tanked because the company just didn't do well. And then they eventually claimed bankruptcy. So my investment of, say, $100 or $1,000 or $10,000 went from I'm investing, I'm making money, to it's going into the hole. So they don't always call you up and say, hey, Aaron, you might want to sell your stuff because we're going to go bankrupt. No, they don't tell you that. You just have to pay attention and see what's happening. In some of those cases, they were only $100 that I had invested into, say, a $2 stock, hoping it would rise up, and then I would sell it at the top and make a little bit of money. And for me, it was a learning curve. It was understanding the stock market at the time, and it was giving me, I would say, eyes wide open into why investing in ETFs is more favorable than single stocks. Then my wife just randomly bought a book called Quit Like a Millionaire. Quit Like a Millionaire is written by two younger folks who are in the millennial generation. I'm in the Gen X generation, so they're behind me. But what's crazy, to me, what's crazy is they learned how to become millionaires by working hard, and they went to university with purpose, figured out careers that they wanted to do with purpose, and then learned how to live on a very small budget inside a very expensive city, and then put all the extra money they weren't spending on daily living into investing. And then literally like 7-8 years later, they retired as millionaires. That, my friends, is fantastic, and why you should read their book. They have a workshop, and that workshop is for free. You can read through the entire thing. It tells you their entire strategy and how they got started. In that strategy workshop, they talk about a guy. He's the couch potato portfolio investor. His website, he breaks down a few different groupings for you to invest in, whether you want to invest 80% into ETF and 20% into bonds, or 70-30 or 60-40, or whatever you want to do with yourself. So he gives you some ETFs that you can buy into. It gives you some strategies, and you work your way from there. So I followed their workshop to a T 12 years ago, and I now have a very strong portfolio, $100,000, and I've now started doing the annual rebalance, which is selling some of my ETFs to rebalance it to the 80-20 that I want my portfolio to be at. Bring home another book. It's this one here. It's called The Latte Factor. The Latte Factor is a decent book, but it tells you more so about money management and that you're richer than you think. And in the richer than you think thought is that if you're a person who goes to Starbucks every day and spends $10 on a cup of coffee, that you're richer than you think because you're just frivolously spending your money. But if you bought a $2 cup of coffee rather than a $10 cup of coffee, you could use those other $8 to invest your money or spend it on something else like travel or your car or your house or whatever it is that you need. The other great thing about it is it's just a generalized story. It just tells you about a person, and they live in a city, and they're looking at a painting on the wall, and they're like, geez, I wish I could buy this $300 painting, but I just don't make enough money. I need more money. I need my employer to pay me more money. I need to figure out how to get more money. And the guy's like, you might be richer than you think. So what I really love about this book is in the back of the book, there are a handful of charts and graphs and all that good stuff. But the one that I really resonated with, and the one that I always share with people, is this one, the appendix chart. And what's crazy about the appendix chart is it has two columns. One is somebody who started investing at the age of 19, and they invest $2,000 until the age of 26. And in it, your investment is getting a 10% annual return. But what's crazy about it is you're only investing from 19 to 26 at $2,000, and then you don't put any more money in the pot. You just let it sit there and compound all the way until you hit 65. And now what's crazier about that is that those 7 years of investing $2,000, right? That's only $14K. Like, that's not a lot of money. But when you're done with the compounding at age 65, you're a millionaire. A millionaire. What? Where was this when I was 19 years old? But the reciprocal column on the other side of the page here is if you didn't start investing until you were at the age 27, and at the age 27, you invested $2,000 every year until 65, you only have $800,000. But think of that. If you're 27 and you invest for 40 years, you're investing $60,000. And you invest $60,000 to make $800,000 versus investing $14,000 and making $1 million. I mean, shit. I wish I had that book when I was 19. I tell every single young person I meet to find that book and read it, and go straight to the back and look at that page, because it tells them literally if they can put $2,000 away starting at age 19, 20, 21, and they do it for 5, 6, 7 years, they don't have to really invest further than that, because in time they'll be a millionaire.